I'm Sarah Klawinski. I'm the Recruiting and Onboarding Manager at DiamondBack Covers, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about interview skills. Remember that the interview is your chance to make a first impression. Often, the first thing that people notice about you is what they remember about you for a long time. So remember that an interview is a shorter amount of time that you're spending with people from a company, which means that that first impression is going to carry a lot of weight, whether they realize it or you realize it or not. So some things to look out for. Think about your outfit, your appearance, how you present yourself that day to the interviewer. Think about your timeliness and arriving with plenty of time to feel comfortable. Think about the way that you greet others in the building and some of those other softer skills like your handshake, your eye contact, and those sorts of things. When you're there in an interview, think about some key points you want to make to really sell yourself as a candidate. And when you make those key points, for example, you might say that I am always willing to help other people in their job. That as a blanket statement isn't telling us much besides you think you're a really helpful worker. Everyone, by the way, says that they're a hard worker, so think of some examples that prove why. Another thing to think about is research the company. Know exactly what the role is that you're interviewing for. So take some time to review that job description and also go on the company's webpage, look through any emails or correspondence you've had with them already. Make sure you know your stuff when you're going in. Some tangible examples that you can give in an interview to prove that you do have the skills and attributes that you're trying to sell to the interviewer. As a high school student, don't have to only be work-related. We understand that for many of you, you might be interviewing for your very first job. Some small things that can make a really big difference in an interview, especially to the interviewer or the hiring manager. Bring copies of your resume, whether you need them or not. Write down information about the company. Also, maintain eye contact. See if you can balance both. Sometimes people make mistakes in interviews. These can be people interviewing for their very first job out of high school or college, or sometimes it can be somebody that has worked for a really long time and has gone on many interviews. One of these mistakes I see a lot is that people talk sometimes negatively about a previous company that they worked for, a previous supervisor, or coworkers. We know that there might be multiple sides to every story, so we want to hear why you want to come work for a different company and not why you don't want to work for that company. Another mistake is when candidates come in and they don't ask any questions. We want you to be curious and excited, and if you don't have any questions, we are wondering, wow, why don't they have any questions? So sometimes that's a good way to sell yourself is to ask some really curious questions in an interview. Some examples of a good question to ask in the interview. What is something that you're looking for in the next person to fill this role? How about, what are some new and exciting changes happening in your company? What does a day in the life look like for the person in this role? And it's okay to write those things down. An employer is going to feel just fine if you come in with a notepad with some questions written down that shows that you're really serious about your desire for the job. There are so many pieces of advice I might want to give to a high school student, but if I could narrow it down, be professional. That ties to a lot of other things that we've talked about today. Think of utmost professionalism and be yourself. Authenticity is really helpful. We want to hear about your experiences. And along with that comes honesty. If someone asks you a tough question, don't make up an answer that you don't have. Be honest with the interviewer. That will go a really long way. So after you go on an interview, at the very end, while you're still there, an interviewer might share the timeline for maybe when you can expect to hear back, when they're hoping to fill the role. But what if they don't? Or what if you don't fully understand it when they told you the first time? It is 1000% okay to ask. We would rather you ask more questions about the timeline. And that's also holding the interviewer accountable for getting back to you because they owe you that as a candidate. It's also really helpful to send an email or a thank you card to thank both the hiring manager and anyone else who was involved in your interview. So I have interviewed at a lot of different places, both when I was younger, like my high school, college days, and also beyond college. And I can honestly say that every experience is different. There were times where I got the job and it felt really good. There were times where I got the job and I decided I didn't actually want that job and I wanted to maybe go a different direction. So it's important to know that if you do not get the job, it's not always about you and your skills. There may have been lots of people that this company interviewed, and one person may have been the better candidate for a variety of reasons. It doesn't mean that you're not a good candidate or that you won't be the perfect fit for another job. So DiamondBack Covers is a manufacturing company in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, in Center County, that makes heavy-duty tonneau covers for pickup trucks. You've probably seen them around Pennsylvania. We started out as a Penn State student project back in 2003, and we now have 150 employees, and we ship covers all over the nation and even the world. We strive to be a company that customers love to buy from and employees love to work for. So in the future, you may want to consider us when you're applying for jobs. Thank you so much for your time. I'm having such a good time talking about interview skills. And if you ever get the chance to reach out for questions, I would love to hear from you. Have an awesome day.